some glimpses of the Galapagos Islands. Alex is giving you a nice shot.
Yes, I do copy.
We have been at sea for the past We've been at sea for the past 4 weeks in the Galapagos National Park, working in collaboration with the Charles Darwin Foundation, and we've been exploring deep-sea hydrothermal vents in the Western Galapagos Spreading Center. Deep-sea hydrothermal vents were discovered just east of where we've been working in 1977, and since then, scientists have been working to understand these unique deep-sea ecosystems. We've been working at a spreading center, and this is a location on the seafloor where magma is rising and cooling at Earth's surface, and this is spreading apart two different tectonic plates. And what can happen at these spreading centers is that there are cracks in the seafloor where cold water can flood in, interact with that hot mantle material, and create a super hot fluid that's chemically and physically different than seawater. And that vent fluid can escape from cracks in the ocean crust, and when it interacts with the cold seawater, metals in that fluid can precipitate and form these big sulfide chimneys. This creates a really beautiful and unique landscape that we've had the joy of exploring over the past month. Just yesterday, we were sampling a chimney that was 12 meters tall, and the fluid coming out of that chimney was over 320 degrees Celsius. Up here at the surface, the base of the food web is fueled by phytoplankton. So we have phytoplankton that are using energy from the sun to create organic molecules. But in the deep ocean, at these hydrothermal vent systems, the base of the food web is supported by chemosynthetic microorganisms. These are microorganisms that use chemical energy from the vent fluid to create organic molecules. So in the absence of sunlight, these microorganisms are able to support a food web that looks quite different than what we're used to seeing up here at the surface. We have an interdisciplinary team of scientists on board, including biologists, that are looking at everything from microscopic life to big Riftia tube worms. We have chemists on board who are characterizing the vent fluids. They've actually built their laboratory on the ship, and they're doing chemical analyses at sea. We have ocean engineers that are collecting new types of data, and geologists that are studying the sulfide chimneys. I myself am here with the U.S. Geological Survey studying rocks and sediment. We're comparing the mineral composition of active chimneys that have hot fluid coming out versus inactive chimneys that no longer are venting hot fluids. So we're interested in these two end members so we can start to understand how these chimneys evolve and change throughout time. We can also get a record of previous venting history by looking at sediment cores. So we can look for hydrothermal sediment in different sediment layers to understand how long these vents may have been active for. Now, if you've been following along with the Schmidt Ocean dive stream, you may have caught some glimpses of the control room where we run the ROV missions. You may have heard scientists like myself on the mic, or ROV pilots and marine technicians. But today we thought we would take a deeper dive and show you some different areas of the vessel. We're going to meet some of the people that keep the ship running and play a really important role in supporting our scientific mission. And we're going to start up at the bridge with Dr. Pete, who's going to introduce you to Captain Philip.
Hey, Caitlin, do you copy? Hey, folks. All right. Hello. Welcome to Falkor 2. My name is Pete Girguis. I'm on the faculty at Harvard University, and I'm really thrilled to be here on this vessel. The Falkor 2 is an amazing ship, but more importantly, has an amazing, amazing crew. And you all heard from Dr. Caitlin about the science that's being done. But one of the things that I personally am really excited about is this opportunity to share with you about Falkor 2 and how the ship runs. I mean, as someone who watches these dive streams and gets a kick out of sitting down with my kids and checking these out, learning about the science is always awesome. It takes a literal village to make that science happen, though. And sometimes I wonder, how in the world does all of this take place? Like, how does this even possibly happen? We have departments that are running the engine room. We have other departments that are coordinating all these activities. And to me, it's really exciting to have this opportunity to do a deep dive into Falkor 2, to tell you about how this whole operation runs. I'm really thrilled about doing a bit of this on the bridge and introducing you to Captain Phil, who's the captain, the master of the Falkor 2. And we're just going to chat a bit about how all of this happens, right? And as someone who manages, a small research lab, seeing this operation always, to me, begs the question: how in the world is all this coordinated? One of the first things you'll notice is that Captain Phil's got there's an alarm or a phone call. That's one of the things that Captain Phil was just telling me is the primary role of being master of a vessel is having many, many phone calls and coordinating so many of these efforts. For example, I was saying, Captain, how does all this run? And he says, well, I spend most of my time driving the ship from phone calls. And that could have not been better timed. So I'm really excited to turn it over to Captain Phil. And let's start with that question. So you picked up the phone. You got phones ringing up here all the time. The big picture question is, what are some of the most, regular occurrences here on the bridge? Like what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis to oversee the operations of the whole ship?
I think the phone is actually a good example because that is probably the most day-to-day basis, because as you just said, it takes a village. It's not just one person. There's no single most important person. It's a team of lots of most important people, and the information flows to the bridge and often comes from the bridge. And that is the primary role up here. It's the information central. We receive information, we pass it on, we make sure everybody has what they need, and all the little wheels keep spinning all the time.
It's so as someone who's been to sea quite a number of times now, it still never ceases to surprise me that you don't come up here and that there is no big, helm with a giant ship's wheel. I'm imagining that most of this is run through digital controls, many of which are here.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And as you see from the number of screens, there's lots of redundancy as well. Because, of course, usually when we're at sea, we're quite far out. So if something breaks, there's no option to just quickly pull over, go to the garage and get a spare part or something. So most of the things we have are duplicated or triplicated for that reason, to be as reliable as possible. Because when something breaks and we need to return to fix it, then that easily eats a week or so out of the cruise. And if the cruise is 4 weeks long, we eat a week for getting a spare that we could have duplicated ahead of time. Then that is very painful.
Yeah. And we were just talking just before this open house. We were talking about how ships have always relied on a kind of chain of command, right? So the captain of the vessel is usually sharing commands with a first officer or the like, and now that still exists, but a lot of it is phone calls.
Yeah, a lot of it is phone calls, and I think a chain is maybe not so much a real good analogy, especially for a research vessel anymore. Like a spider's web or some sort of net would be probably more appropriate, because of course there are individual people who are in charge and who are technically and legally in control or in command of the vessel, but obviously no single person can run or know or be aware of everything at the same time. So
right.
Being in charge is pretty pointless if you don't know what you're in charge of, and that of course relies heavily on the collaboration of everybody else involved.
Yeah, and that makes total sense given what I've seen. And one of my favorite things about sailing on Falkor 2 is just seeing how kind of integrated the different departments are. And it's likely true on many other research vessels. I do appreciate the spirit of cooperativity I see here, where different departments are really talking about what needs to happen, and it runs really wonderfully. Switching gears a little bit, I get a lot of questions from students and the general public about what does it take to run a research cruise? And for me, the answer is I write a grant, I work with earlier career scientists to try and think of really exciting questions. And then I show up and you all basically make this happen. So I want to turn this question around and say, some of our listeners may be interested in a career as a captain or as a an executive officer or something. What you want to take that call?
Richville. Hey Archie. Yeah, go for it. All right, cheers.
And there it is. So if a younger person says to you, Captain Phil, I want to be like you, right? I want a career like yours. What are some of the things you would encourage them to do?
I think the key thing is honestly luck. I mean, that's something we need to be aware of in our world, that obviously possibilities are very unevenly distributed, and a lot of the
Phone call. Hello. Phil speaking. 1 cubic meter. All right. No worries, Archie.
because a lot of career moves aren't actually moves. They come to being in the right place at the right time, and that plays a big role. And I have to be honest that that is luck. You can't control being in the right place at the right time. You can always control being prepared to some degree, but there's always an element of luck. So if whoever wants to become an astronaut or a research vessel captain or some other little bit unusual profession, there's no point to be disappointed if it doesn't work out, because obviously you can't control what other people do. You can only control to be prepared yourself.
Right.
And besides that, it takes about 4 years in Maritime Academy. Then again, luck, because research is such a small industry, so it's not that easy to get into.
Mm-hmm.
And then perseverance and curiosity, because being a ship's captain, you need to be a little bit of an engineer, a little bit of somebody who knows about humans, a little bit of a doctor. You need to be pretty good at navigation. You need to be running a ship, and you need to dip your toes in all these different fields and areas. And of course, that takes curiosity to acquire the skills across this multitude of fields and then be able to apply that. And seriously, curiosity helps, especially in a research vessel, a lot too, because obviously it's much more fun and much more fruitful to be curious about what the research party actually does, and then it's more of a collaboration and less of a we supply service to a party that happens to come on board. And that supply service is just, in my mind, never as fruitful as actually being part of the team and living in a true collaborative environment.
Yeah, that your response really resonates, and so what I hear you say, and what I often try to share to folks is, be prepared, right? If you are interested in pursuing something, then you prepare for it, and luck, serendipity. I mean, that all kind of governs what will ultimately happen in many ways, but I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, and also that you're as a person with a lot of curiosity, which I know you to be, it means that any number of opportunities on a ship, could well appeal to you, right? And it's just, you are here for your hard work and a bit of good luck, and it's true for all of us.
Yeah, now when I come back to the preparation part, of course, you need to make your luck to some degree.
Right.
There's no point having an opportunity to be a master in a research vessel and then not having the appropriate papers in hand.
Right.
So the preparation part is really key. I can't wait until the opportunity comes up and then start to prepare. I need to have an idea what I want to achieve and prepare for that in case the opportunity arises.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a couple other questions, and I'm going to turn it back over to Sophia. So I found, let me start with sharing a little story. I came up and visited you a few nights ago, and it reminded me that there's people always on watch on the ship and always overseeing the operations, and it was very still and very quiet, and really a very peaceful moment on what is often a very busy cruise, certainly for a scientist. What, to me, that it was a bit of a surprise just to see just how quiet it was, and yet how much there was going on at the same time. I'm curious, from your point of view, what do you think would be most surprising for our audience to hear about life at bridge?
I would say, you can hear me, right?
Oh yeah, I was passing this question to Captain Phil, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, friend.
Awesome. Okay, so I think from my perspective, it's always surprising for me in terms of a sensory standpoint.
Okay.
I think that for me, what's most surprising are the red lights up on the bridge
Mhm.
at night. I think that's something that surprises folks who aren't often on ships.
Right.
And that's to help the bridge officers see at night.
Yep.
So I think that was the most surprising for me. And also just how dark it gets. You know, we're out in the middle of the ocean. There's not
Right.
a lot of light pollution. In fact, you can see the Milky Way really well. We saw it really well a couple of nights ago out on the back deck. And yeah, just the whole sensory thing is so different when you're out on a ship.
Absolutely.
That would be my answer.
Yeah. And now I want to ask Captain Phil, and then Sophia. I think we should move on to our other departments. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? All right, Captain
perfect.
Phil. What's your response? What do you think would be most surprising to our audience?
One question I often get asked is, how do I run the ship for 24 hours a day? And of course the answer is, I don't. It's a team, again, that we have 3 people who share watches. And I often meet people who seem to struggle with the concept that we do run 24 hours around the clock. There's always somebody up, so there's also always somebody sleeping, and we don't do weekends, we don't do holidays.
Right.
We
Right.
just keep running all the time.
Right. Of
because,
course.
Of course, science never sleeps, and running a ship is expensive enough as it is. You don't want it to idle just because it's weekend.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Captain Phil, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass this over back to you, Sophia, and I'll head on down. Thanks again, Captain. Enjoy your time up here. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
All right, folks. As we wait for Alex to make his way down to the mess, which will be our next destination on this tour.
Yeah, and Sophia, just as a reminder, we were just walking through the bridge, which is at one of the higher points on the vessel. And Alex, our videographer here, is taking you down the many staircases we have to go in order to go down to the mess.
Yeah.
Each of these decks usually has a certain number of berths for crew or for science. Falkor 2 has, goodness, I think about 3 accommodation decks, maybe 4. And this is the central staircase that runs through the vessel. It's often called a forecastle. I don't know if this is exactly the forecastle on the ship, but Falkor 2 also has these great little aesthetic elements that Alex just highlighted, showing the wonderful space that the founders set up for the scientists and for the crew to relax in. So Sophia, should I turn it over back to you?
Sure thing.
Okay. And while we're waiting for Sophia to get set up, I'll just say that this whole area is one of my favorite spaces. A lot of cool things going on. So, Sophia, it's your show.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you. I'm Sophia again, the multimedia technician. We had a couple of audio hiccups there in the beginning, so you didn't really get to hear my voice. But I'm super excited to be showing you the interior of the ship, as well as the members of the interior department that really make this ship run. You know, we have scientists, but we need so many personnel just to support the scientists, you know, have chefs to cook the food, have cleaning staff. So this whole operation really wouldn't be possible without him. And I'm going to meet my friend, Yuannin, in the mess. She's waiting for us. There she is. All right, welcome to the mess, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Yuannin, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good. Could you introduce yourself to the lovely viewers and tell us what you do?
Yes. Hello, guys. Welcome to the mess. Welcome to B deck. It's the most fun deck on board. Here is where we eat 3 times a day, so this is everyone's happy place. And I think if there's good food, everyone's happy. And then we have our lounges here as well, and the cinema, which we might show you later. I am from South Africa. I've been on board for a year now, a year and a week exactly. Yes, I joined in Vigo in the shipyard and did the Atlantic crossing, which was a first for me. I'm South African and I live in Spain.
Awesome. Could you tell me a little bit about what your daily life looks like? What do you do on a typical day on board?
Yes, every day is a little bit different, which
Mhm.
keeps it really nice and interesting. And we have our purser for the interior, then me, the chief stewardess, and we have two other stewardesses, two chefies, and the galley mess steward. So here we have every day a little bit different. It's towards the end of the cruise, it gets exciting because then we get to prepare for the next cruise, and then the first week of the new cruise is also really interesting, and then the port calls in between are also very busy and very fun. On a day-to-day basis, let's say mainly we make sure everything is clean and tidy and organized throughout the whole interior of the ship. We make sure that everything gets cleaned when it's supposed to and how it's supposed to, all scheduled so that we don't miss anything, and make sure that it's hygienic and also safe. We may the cabin plans who moves where, and make sure that the crew and the scientists know who's sleeping where and when each cabin needs to be changed over, for example. We have laundries. Gosh, we have 1, 2, 4 laundries on board, and that we need to keep running every day as well. And a massive corridor that you just saw that we also take turns, a bridge and offices, and then the mess. I'd say this is the busiest place on board. 3 times a day we get hot, delicious food in here. Please have a look. We have really comfy seating and these massive windows which let in so much light. So we actually saw pilot whales 2 or 3 times during this cruise outside these windows. And so in the mess, it's a lot of stocking up throughout the day, I'd say, and cleaning up throughout the day, and checking the dates. And every week we have something specific that needs cleaned. So it's a lot of planning and a lot of scheduling that we do. I'm also in charge of the uniform, making sure that all the crew members have uniform, and to order that. And a lot of things are planning ahead so far, because we're at sea for 1 month at a time approximately, and we have short port calls, and everything comes from very far, and we can't afford to run out of anything. Like Captain Phil also said, we can't just quickly go to the shop. So a lot of it is planning ahead for uniform, for scientist swag, for example, and cleaning products. We have a huge supply of everything that we have to have on board. We're like our own floating city for food, for clothes, and for cleaning products as well. So for example, toilet paper, imagine if we run out of toilet paper in the middle of a cruise. So a lot of it is inventories and making sure that we plan ahead, to order ahead, and work with our shoreside team, which is very nice to help us get the stuff that we need, where we're going to be on time in our quick port calls. So a lot of planning and a lot of scheduling on a day-to-day basis. And then getting to meet all the interesting people that we have, and it's such a huge team effort. Everyone plays such a crucial role, and there's no small role on board. Everyone is so important in every bit that they bring to the table. Everything that everyone does has a big effect and is really, really important, because we can't do it without each other. Every person really matters in everything that they do, and we love what we do. We really love what we do. I love anything cleaning wise, housekeeping product wise. So when it's time for, where can I find this, or where can I find that, or I need this, or I need that, I love being able to help and say, yes, we have that, or I have this solution alternatively if we don't have it on board. And yeah, that's our day today.
Amazing. I think we just have a little bit of buffering here. But could you tell us what would happen if we ran out of coffee? How often do you restock the coffee?
Oh my gosh, I think we go through 2 kilos of coffee beans a day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so coffee is important. We have our top things that we check for every order. We need to make sure we have enough coffee. That's one of really the top 3. And we go about 2 kilos of coffee beans a day. What's hand soap as well is a big thing that we run through a lot, which is very good because washing hands is really important, especially because we're on a ship. If someone gets the flu, we need to make sure that we wash our hands so it doesn't spread. Otherwise, we'd all get sick. So yeah, coffee, beans is important. Milk as well, and yeah.
Amazing. Shall we go say hi to the chefs who are working very hard? Yeah.
Here is our galley with chefs Greg and Peter. Hello.
Hi.
This is where the magic happens all day, every day. and we get really, really good food, and sometimes we even get dessert. And on Sundays we get ice cream. So yeah, those are and barbecue. Yeah. Today is barbecue day, for example. So then all the food goes outside, and that's usually a really fun time for everyone.
Big thank you to Alex for getting up all those beautiful close-up shots that you're seeing right now. Beautiful. Amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about how you became a stewardess?
Oh,
how does that happen?
That is I think everyone has a different story about how they end up at sea, actually. I started in 2012, and I worked ashore a little bit. So this is my 9th year at sea, and it was a crazy story, but I ended up on a small sailing yacht for a friend of a friend of a friend who wanted to sell the sailing yacht, and he just needed someone to keep it clean and tidy. And then after that, actually, I started in yachting. So this is my first research vessel, which is really cool and really interesting, and something that actually really matters, and it's completely different. So normally in yachting, you'd actually do like dock walking, which is a very humbling experience. You actually walk and beg for work from ship to ship, and then hope someone, takes you on. But there are the basic certificates, like Captain Phil also said, that we all need. You need your STCW and your medical certificate and all those, and depending on how big you get, you need a few more certificates. So if you really want to enter the industry, get your basic certificates, and then you just hope and pray for some day work to gain some sort of experience. And then, I was very lucky to start on smaller ships, because then you get a real hands-on experience for every department. And then the bigger you get, the more specialized you get. And then went from smaller ships to like a medium size, 50 meter, and then I got 110 meter. And then, you work yourself up to from stewardess to maybe a head of house or a head of service, and then to chief stew, and then you get a purser after that. So, we have interesting steps as well, and it's really fun. But it's mostly serving others, really, because as a stewardess, you clean. That's what we do. You clean and you help others do and give guests what they need. And in our case, it's a scientist to make sure when they come on board, they have everything that they need to enjoy their time here, and also to do the work that they've come to do, and not, it needs to be happy and comfortable, and you have that when your basic needs are met. And I think here, because it's such a nice and beautiful ship, we meet more than just the basic needs.
Oh yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun to see happy people and be like, oh my gosh, we had cake, today, and everyone's happy. Or, oh, I could watch a movie in the cinema. Or, if everything runs and everyone's happy, then we have a good ship.
Amazing. Yeah. Speaking of cinema, shall we go in and hop in one of the lounges as well?
Let's see.
And then after that, we're going to go meet our chief engineer and Caitlin again in the ROV hangar.
Okay. Here we have the den. This is a really nice, relaxing spot. We have board games, we have books, a massive TV, and cute little plushies everywhere.
All right. And that's one of the lounges. Oh no. Alex, you want me to hold the gimbal so you can put your shoes on? There we go. Perfect.
We have a cinema, which I think is worthy of showing, and a backyard, like an indoor backyard area, which are all areas, because our cabins, we're always close to each other. It's nice to have spaces outside of our cabins that we can go to relax, to read a book, and not just go work and cabin and work and cabin. We have these really cool and beautiful, interesting places.
What's your favorite place, Joanine?
Ooh, I'd say the den is quite comfy for me, because there's so much light.
Yeah.
But then when it is movie night, this is a really good cinema to come to.
Amazing. And yeah, sorry, just taking a couple seconds to put my shoes back on. Keeps the space very clean. All right. How about we meet you at the conference room for questions at the end? Thank you so much for telling us about our lounge spaces.
Everyone.
It's good to see you.
See you later.
You in like 10 minutes. Perfect. All right. So now we will make our way up to the ROV hangar, where we will meet our chief engineer along with Caitlin. So we're gonna head our way up there. We're gonna take a little secret path. As always, don't forget to put your questions for all of our staff at the end. We will have a chance to answer all of those. So here's the door, actually right outside my own cabin. And there they are waiting for you.
Hey everyone.
Just hold on, I think you're muted just to do a little check. Oh, perfect, you're good.
And who is the chief
Hello?
engineer on board? Dan, I see you in the hallways and in the galley and at the pull-up bar outside, but we don't really cross paths during our workday. So I'm curious about where you spend most of your time working on the vessel.
Well, I mostly spend my time being in the engine room and also in our ship's office, where you probably also not spend most of your time. So I mostly run up and down, see my engineers, and if there are any, or just have a chat with them and see that everything is okay as well.
Great. And tell us where we are now. What is behind us?
So behind us, yeah, so we are in the ROV hangar. Sof said it already, we see two big wheels here, and I don't know if you heard about that we have this submarine or ROV. So if you see this little black line there, this is the umbilical, which goes from our winch, which is all the way down on the bottom in the ship, up here, and then leads down to, I think Alex showed you already the yellow thing down there, yeah. So the cable or umbilical goes there, and it supplies power to the vehicle and also the communication. So if we do the videos and stuff like this, all coming through fiber optics, and yeah, so that we see what's going on downstairs.
And how often are you or your team up here maintaining this?
Well, that's not so much at the moment. So sometimes we need to grease the sheath so that everything turns nicely, and once in a while there's maybe a little leak, or to check that everything is still tight, that it doesn't fall apart. Sometimes we have some vibrations on the ship. Yeah, you want to make sure that all the bolts are still tight. So that's more like routine inspections here, yeah. So
Okay.
we are mostly a bit more busy down in our kingdom, where it's a bit more noisy.
I'm curious, what is your favorite task that you do on board, and what is your least favorite task that you have to take care of?
My favorite task, I think it's always interesting if you take an engine apart, or if you, we are a diesel electric ship, so we have diesel generators running. So if you open them, yes.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
Sorry folks, we are out in the middle of the ocean, so sometimes the internet does go out a little bit. Thank you so much for bearing with us.
All right, I was just asking Dan what his favorite task to do on board is, and what his least favorite task that he has to take care of is.
Yeah, so my favorite task is if you open up an engine or do an engine overhaul. That's, at least for me, still the most exciting part. If you can see everything comes apart and pistons coming out of the engine block and things like this. Yeah, the most or least exciting part is, well, sometimes there's not so pleasant, smelly jobs and things like this. So, well, if a toilet doesn't work and that's mostly not things where we're looking forward to, but it's also part of our job.
We appreciate you taking care of that. Can you talk a little bit about your career path? How did you become an engineer, and how long have you been working on vessels?
So when I was a kid, I did vacation on close to the sea or at the sea. I'm from Germany, so it was the North Sea. There was a open day for search and rescue party, and that impressed me so much that my idea was to become one of those. So I sent them a letter. They replied and said, "Oh, you need to become a seaman, and then you need to do your license as a captain or an engineer, and then maybe they train me if they need somebody further to a search and rescue guy." And then when it came to the end of the school, then I did an apprenticeship as a ship mechanic. This is both deck rating and engine rating. In Germany, they have this both put together. And well, my idea at the beginning was to become a captain, but then I've seen that it's a bit more interesting down in the engine room, so I decided to become an engineer. And when I did my studies, there was still in Germany, they had a dual license, and my final thesis took a little bit longer, so I even have the deck license, so I could do stuff on the bridge as well, but I only did it 3 weeks on the old Falkor. Yeah, so my knowledge is more down there.
Awesome. How big is your team that you're working with?
On my team, we are at the moment 9 people.
9 people.
So 3 more engineers, 2 fitters, an ETO, and 1 AVIT electrician, or AVIT engineer, yeah.
I don't know what most of those terms mean. What's that?
So AVIT is in charge for all the networking, so that the internet is going well, that the satellite is looking into the right direction, and that our internet connection is good. The ETO is an electrical technical officer, so he's for all the electrical things, everything, well, power supply and sensors and things like this. And then, yeah, fitter, it's like a normal machinist or working with metals. And then engineers, similar to me, just maybe a little bit younger, not so experienced.
Awesome.
And I didn't answer your question before. Now it's a bit noisy. I don't know if you still can hear. How long have I been on ships? So it's now 25 years that I've been the first time on a ship, yeah.
Awesome. Very interesting. Also curious how often there are many emergencies on the ship that me as a scientist never hears about or doesn't know is going on. How frequently does that happen?
Well, on this ship it's very rarely. I mean, there's sometimes a toilet not working, but other than that, we don't have a real emergency here since I'm on board. No, it's a really reliable ship, and we've been just in the shipyard to make sure that everything is working well, and then we keep on top on our maintenance. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dan. Now I think we're going to head down to the conference room and maybe have some time to take questions.
All right.
All right, so I'm just showing you a little drone shot 360 of the ship while we transition back to the conference room. I just wanted to use this moment to give a huge thank you to Alex Engel, who has done all the beautiful gimbal work that you just saw. This would definitely not be possible without him, and he's definitely been a huge part of all of the multimedia going on, so I work really closely with him and just wanted to give him a huge shout out. And while the engineers and Caitlin make their way back down to the conference room, which I'll show you in just a minute, this will be the perfect time to submit questions. You can ask us anything about life at sea, about the science that we've done so far this expedition. Anything goes, and we'll be thrilled to answer them. Yeah, come on in. And Alex has just ran away. But we're just getting ready. You guys can all take a seat right here. I'm going to switch the shot so everybody can see us at home.
Sophia, do you want us all on these chairs or around the table? What would you prefer?
These chairs, because the camera's
Roger
right
that.
there, so we can
Come
see.
on in, Chief. Hello, hello.
All right, we're just going to wait for folks to get settled. We have enough
Hop
chairs,
on in,
right?
Dr.
Yes, we
Kalin.
do. All right. So, I think we had a question earlier on in the stream about ROV recovery in bad weather. I had a question for Dr. Pete. Have you ever been on an expedition where we had to recover the ROV early?
Do you copy me?
I
All
do.
right, there we go. Been on lots of expeditions where we had to recover the ROV early. in general, the ROVs are very capable of doing work even when the weather's a little too rough for a human occupied vehicle. But safety first. Whenever you put something in the water, that means someone has to be out on deck handling it as it goes in and out. And when the weather is really rough, it makes it a little more precarious, a little more dangerous. And there comes a point at which it gets a lot dangerous. So just to give you a sense, oftentimes I've seen ROVs go in the water when we have 20 knot winds or about 20 mile per hour winds. But if it gets up to 30 or 40, it's really rough. If any of you ever have been to sea in 20 knot winds, you're probably thinking, wow, that's already rough. So it gives you a sense of how capable the vehicles are, but safety first. If it gets too risky for the personnel, then there's really no reason to put it in the water.
Amazing. That's a really good answer. And also, every launch and recovery is really different. Here, I'll just pop in this seat. Every launch and recovery is really different. So our ROV pilots are really skilled at knowing how to read various weather instruments, and we have all kinds of data coming into the mission control room, so they're able to really adapt to any situation. We have another question. Do birds often hang around the ship? Have y'all seen any birds?
Oh my gosh. Today, maybe we're close enough to land that they've moved on from us, but when you're out at sea and you stay in the same spot for long enough, you kind of grow this ecosystem of animals that hangs around. So we have had birds the whole trip. Last night when we started making our way back into port on both sides of the vessel, you can just see this swarm of birds kind of flying us home, which was kind of fun. But we've had lots of mahi hanging out, flying fish. They like to come at night when we have lights on the water, so that's a really good time to come out and see what kind of animals are hanging around.
I love that. Do you often get to see animals, Dan?
Oh, they're very
You're so
rarely
busy.
in the engine room, but yeah, out. No, it was amazing this trip, with all the birds and the mahi around.
Yeah, I would, as a crew member, there's another question here. What kinds of medical support is available on board? It's a question that we commonly get, but maybe this would be towards one of the crew members.
Well, we have the medical officer. All of our officers are trained as medical officers as well, and of course captain. And then we have a medical team. So in every emergency when we muster, the medical team musters as well, so that if there's a casualty, and we have safety Saturdays every Saturday, and it is very good that it gets taken so seriously here, but it's also big fun. And it's we learn a lot every Saturday. I feel like every crew member knows what to do in every situation. It's not like the medical team only knows the medical stuff. Just past Saturday, we all again learned how to launch the life raft, for example. So I do feel we're all very well trained, and there is the officers taking very good care of us in case there is a medical emergency. Luckily, we haven't had very serious ones since I've been on board, and whenever there is something, it gets dealt with very fast, very efficiently, and very caringly as well. The officers and the captain, they do take care of us so nicely that even when you don't feel very well, we get taken care of really nice. And we have a hospital on board as well, which is a smaller hospital, and it has its own bathroom, so that if someone gets really sick and needs to isolate there, we have a nice, comfortable space for that.
Yeah. That's a really detailed answer. Thank you for that. That's perfect. Yeah. It's from a scientist's perspective, is there anything that you've ever wondered about it, like how crew live their life? Is there something that really struck you when you first came on board?
Yeah, and it'll be fun to hear Caitlin's answer, because Caitlin and I are both scientists. We're at different career stages, and I think that I've been chief scientist on a number of cruises, and one of the things that I have learned is that each research vessel has develops its own culture, and they're all wonderful in their own unique ways. One of the things I'm always curious about is how often crews stay in touch when they're not on the vessel, right? This is such a very, frankly, kind of intimate experience when you go to sea with the same people for a month. And for scientists, we often grow very close and start finding ways to collaborate, right? So a lot of collaborations are born at sea, and a lot of good friendships are born at sea. And then, so that happens to us. I'm curious if that happens with crew. And then also, I'd love to hear Caitlin's sort of question to crew as well. But maybe we'll start with you all. How often do you hang out off the boat?
Dan, you can go first.
Well, as our crew is coming nearly all everywhere around the world, but I visited already a couple of crew members. So I was traveling with Phil, the captain. I was visiting a few engineers in Argentina and New Zealand. I met a former purser in Australia. So because we were also traveling around the world, so I always took the opportunity to meet them. Also stewardesses and fitters in Philippines. So I try to see them learn more about their home. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So in Germany, I met also the German guys.
Sure.
But I mostly do it when I'm anyway around already, so that I don't need to do extra traveling.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. Most of the crew are on for 2 months at a time. So we really get to know each other well.
Sure.
And every trip's, some crew change and some crew don't. So every trip you get to work with newer people.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's only been here for a year, but the others that have been here for much longer know the others much longer as well. And you get to know each other, and especially because, for example, the interior team is so small, we really get to know each other and make it special for each other when we're here on board. Right. Visited anyone off yet? Because no one else lives in Spain, I think, or South Africa. People to go and visit on your time off.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't gotten the chance to. I'll echo Yuanin. I have worked here for less than a year, so I haven't really gotten the chance to see anybody off the ship yet. But I think we're slowly starting to make plans once the sailing schedule kind of clears up a little bit. But it's really exciting. But besides just visiting people in person, we now have phones. Social media. I follow some of the crew members on Instagram, see what they're up to. What sort of pictures they're taking from their vacation. So it's a great way to keep in touch, and when we do get some time in port, we also do try to spend some time together. So after this expedition is done, we'll probably hang out as a crew as well, which will be very exciting. So hope that answers your question.
No, that's very cool. Dr. Caitlin, what do you think?
Yeah, so I do 1 or 2 expeditions a year, and right now I'm feeling a little sad because we're at the end, and we've had so much fun together. We get to know each other. Mm-hmm. It's the ending of this really big special experience. I only have to go through that once or twice a year, but for those of you who do this throughout the year, does it ever get easier? Do you have that same kind of feeling at the end, and then you have to get to know a whole new group of people next month? How is that experience for you?
I get really sad.
You get sad too?
I think it depends as well, because like Sophia, for example, you work with the scientists so much more intensely than me or Dan, I think. And so I think for each one, it's sadder than maybe for someone else. Yeah. And for me, I just get to know some of the people's names. Like, okay, bye. I just got to remember your name. But each scientist party also has a different culture, not just a different crew culture, every ship, but each science party has a different culture as well. And I did on my first cruise actually cry a tiny bit when I said goodbye to one lady when they left. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so silly. But you actually, we spent some time and she showed me so much of what they're doing. And so there was one person that I had a tiny tear when I said goodbye to them.
Right.
Yeah, there's just many folks that you really click with, and it just happens. And but there's, again, opportunities to keep in touch with folks when they've left, and it's a great opportunity to keep getting to know them. So
That's very cool. Well, standing invitation to visit Massachusetts.
And Barcelona for everyone.
Oh yeah,
perfect.
Oh, yeah. Be careful with Yonin, because a bunch of us will be showing up, knocking on your door.
You've
Hello.
got a big family too.
I do,
Pete.
friend. I do. I'm warning you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was scrolling through the comments as well. We had a question about becoming an ROV pilot. Now, we don't have any ROV pilots here at the moment, but we do dive stream. We're going to have a dive stream next expedition as well, starting September 18th. Alex will be manning that, so super excited to have him back. So feel free to ask all of your ROV pilot questions then. The ROV pilots are super busy doing demo because we're just finishing up a cruise. We're actually transiting back. So feel free to ask your questions there. But lots of practice is the short answer to becoming an ROV pilot. You know, actually getting out here, doing all of those practice hours, working with J-Rod and the fantastic team. Yeah, so that would be the short answer to your question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things though that Sophia, when you and I first started talking about this particular open house, I remember we were both saying, when you watch the dive stream, you're seeing these just beautiful organisms in this like amazing world, and you're hearing from scientists who are just so excited, and they're like, oh look, let me tell you everything there is about a worm or a clam, and you really get a lot of insight into how the ROV operations work from the scientists and the pilots and the like. But we were really excited again to emphasize that all of that is supported by what you all do, right? And that at the end of the day, I sometimes joke with other scientists saying, who's the least important person on a ship? And they start asking, thinking, you know, people are trying to guess, but be careful and not offend anybody. And I'll say, it's me, chief scientist, right? Like, you can get rid of a chief scientist and everything will happen. And it's, you know, it's a humorous way of saying that from the deckhands to the engine department to the interior department, all of those things have to happen in order to support science. And really, all of the science gets built on these foundations. And so as wonderful as the ROV team is, and you know, perhaps that one or two of us as scientists, but you know, really it's all those foundational departments that make this run. And so the dive streams are a great chance to learn about the ROV and to learn about the science. And I'm just excited that we had a chance to talk with our chief and our other chief about.
Yeah, and we just have about 5 minutes left on this stream. Time flies when you're trying to show people the ship.
Right.
But to end it off, I'd like to, and maybe if we get some more questions, I'd be happy to maybe do one more. But I wanted to ask everyone maybe what your most memorable moment so far has been from either your rotation so far or this cruise in the scientist's case. I guess we can start with you, Anine.
Oh gosh, I'm not ready yet. Sorry,
Okay.
I have to think.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's just take like 30 seconds to think.
Now, are you talking about this expedition, most memorable moment, or in general?
Yeah, so memorable moment from this expedition.
This expedition.
I can start.
Dr.
Go
Caitlin.
for it.
I've done a lot of different expeditions, but mostly focusing on the water column, so I'm relatively new to the seafloor, and I learned so much. You feel that way if you're watching the dive stream too, but to sit amongst a group of experts, you taught me what a spoonworm was. That might be one of my highlights. It looked like
The squidworm?
The spoonworm.
Oh, the spoonworm, right, yeah.
It looked like a trail of snot coming
Yep,
out
yep.
of the rock, and it just was so alien and foreign to me. And
Yep.
Sophia told me it was a spoonworm. Now I know what spoonworms are. So I've got to see animals that I've never seen before, and I've just got to sit in a room and ask people questions and learn and see new things. So I think that's the most memorable part of this experience for me.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well, when I went to the main lab one of the days, so River Pete was there too, and then Corina and Phil showed me these massive mussels and clams, like bigger than my head. That I'll never forget. Ginormous. And then all of them can only live down there where they live because it has this tiny little parasite in them that eats for them.
Yeah.
So to me, that was like, and then I forgot her name, had something cute in a petri dish and looking, and it was just like, it looked like it was dancing, a tiny little red thing going
Right,
like
right.
this. So that was, one thing that I saw this morning, and I'll never forget these massive mussels and clams. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. I think I'll echo you, Anine, on that. I think I've read about Riftia in books, and
Yep.
actually this expedition was my very first Riftia, which was very exciting for me. I think I took a little screenshot on my phone when I saw it first. And then having you ask if I wanted to actually like put on gloves and pick it up in the lab, and then Alex was taking pictures of it, and I got to hang out with all the scientists. I think that moment was very memorable for me because I actually got to hold a a deep sea worm, and
Wow.
that's not something that a lot of people can do or have said that they've done. So
It's incredible. We get to touch something from like 2,000
Right?
meters deep.
Right?
That
Yeah.
that's really, really special.
yeah.
What about you, Chief?
Yeah, I think for me it was nearly the same moment. I think I was around when.
I think you were there too.
and
Yeah.
they got these tubes, these worms out of the tube. So this was, I think, for this cruise, I think my highlight for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was also really exciting about that Jill, I met Jill again. She was on the old Falkor 10 years ago. So when I crossed
that's
her
right.
way, the first day when she was on board, this was cool as well. So cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites is coming back, and it takes my slow brain a minute or two. I'm like, wait a minute, I know him, and then all the memories come rushing back. I think my favorite moment, hands down, was the three of you and other crew members coming to the main lab and asking questions and being so excited to learn about all the animals we're working with. And I'll one special moment though was you, Yoni, and you were putting up a sign in the corridor. And Yoni starts asking questions about tube worms, and they were good questions. And by the end, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I need another graduate student next year. What do you think? Want to try this?" So it's really, and I'm sincere in saying this, when you all ask questions of us, you're looking at this problem or this organism or this rock or this question through a different lens, and so you have insights we don't. And that is hands down my favorite part. It is true, and so it's really neat to hear all of you ask these questions and get us thinking like, I don't know how to answer that. And so, I mean, I'm sure Dr. Caitlin, you've had that experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So yeah, that hands down my favorite. So
And thanks for answering and like not being
Yeah.
too busy for this, like actually stopping and okay, this is not a silly question, and talking about it, because those are the kinds of things that we think about because we don't know any better. So it's really appreciated that you guys take the time to show us. And,
no, you're welcome.
oh, do you want to look at this? And do you
You're
want to look
welcome.
at that? And
Come
Yeah.
look at
like,
this
yes,
shiny
I do.
rock. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. I don't think we have any more questions, and we're just about out of time. Is there any last minute thing y'all want to say to the folks on YouTube? I just wanted to say thank you all for being such a great team to work with and
Oh, yeah.
amazing scientists to work with too. It's been great working with you all on shift and on off shift with our Mario Kart tournament. It's been great fun, and I've learned an incredible amount this cruise. So I just appreciate all of your hard work.
You guys have been
Yeah.
a really, really nice science party
Yeah.
this
Oh,
past
yeah.
month to have on board. Really fun and really nice and really kind people.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we do have a pretty good crew. We have a
do.
really,
That's
really
like
nice
I've
do.
never
crew.
felt more accommodated coming on to a research vessel. You showed me to my room and gave me
Right?
a tour. And normally you walk on a vessel and walk around and find your room and throw your bag in and figure things out on your own. So this
Oh,
has been
no.
a really unique experience to feel this welcome and accommodated on a research vessel.
Oh yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And I am looking for a graduate student. Yoni.
Okay.
I don't want to miss that point.
I'm young. I got time. We can talk.
Okay, all right, we can talk. All right, we're on. All right, well, thank you all. That was amazing.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I would like to just say thank you all. Thank you all for watching the stream today, and I think we'll just wave bye now.
Bye,
Thank
friends.
Thank you all
Be well.
so much for
Follow Schmidt
joining
Ocean
us.
Institute. Follow us.
Hold on, wait. Yeah,
All right,
the
be well,
stream.
folks.
And stream. And stream.
We might have another hour.
Oh my gosh. Perfect.
Any luck?
I think I'll have to run out of the room and end it.
All right, very well.
And cut.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I know, right? Exactly. Well, while Sophia's doing that, now's a chance to ask one more question. So, Dan, if you could pick something to do in the science you've seen, what would you want to do? Did you like the dissecting or the high pressure vessels, or what calls to you?
Rock sawing,
Rock
chemistry.
science. Yeah. Listen to Dr. Kayla. She's shamelessly
Don't forget
trying to
about the
recruit you.
non-bio teams.
Oh,
That's
a hard
hysterical.
question. Yeah. I don't really know.
I mean, they do have a better logo, the USGS Rocks. I mean, that is
okay.
very hard to to keep up with. So the rock sign is pretty cool.
We get to saw and hammer things. Keep that in mind as you
Very
choose.
nice.
Yeah. But I have pressure vessels, so I'm just saying.
Can we combine this somehow? No.
Yeah, seriously. No, it is really, I think, a cool reminder that all of the science we do actually also has an engineering component, electrical or mechanical, and a chemistry and a biology. So, yeah, it really does take a village, even amongst the scientists.
Yeah.
Right? So, but yeah, like even Dr. Caitlin and I don't think we've seen each other for years.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see your journey moving through geology and chemistry and all of those things, and to find ourselves back here again, hanging out with our fine friends. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I want to come and be your intern, though, Dan.
I want to shadow you for a day because it's
Right.
a part of the vessel that we don't get to see. I don't
Yeah.
understand what goes on down there. I just want to job shadow you.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
He gives his phone for every time I tell him there's a damage. He's like,
Go talk to Girguis. He's my onboard intern. Oh my gosh, that would be really, really funny. Well, I'm game if you are, but it is definitely a village out here to get all this going. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder if Sophia's having any